So, the interview went wrong, the interview went right, the interview went on waiting mode, whatsoever. Now, let's say, I'll take the positive scenario. The interview went awesome, and you come to hear that question which rings the bell in your mind, or a bell in any prospectus client's or interviewer's mind. So, what is your expected salary? Now, that's the wonderful question to hear, but it's a very difficult question to answer. Why? Because I have found that there is no right or wrong answer to it. And those kind of situation where there is no right, or wrong answer, you go into a dilemma. How much to ask? What is the exact figure to ask? Is it going to be too little or is it going to be too much? I don't want to lose this scope of this job, asking for a great sum of money. How do I do the valuation? And so on. It's pretty confusing. And many a times I have found during the process of interview, when asked, interviews cannot give a very satisfactory answer. So either they undervalue themselves or they overvalue what they see in terms of organizational structure and everything, and their experience is not balanced to what they're asking for. Either it is too low because they just want to get into this organization, or it might be exorbitantly high, thinking that this is such a big organization and I might get what I might ask for. So what is the right way to approach this question? Now, the right way or a favorable way to approach this question is a three-dimensional question or solution in itself. The first is, you might ask in terms of your experience, right? And analyzing the kind of client you are getting interviewed with, right? You don't want to name a small figure and lose a lot, or you don't want to name a big figure and lose the job, because you might be appearing as a very pricey candidate and the HR or the operation heads might consider some other candidates over this. You don't want this to happen. So the first approach is ask in terms of the organization that you are getting interviewed with. Second, ask in terms of the value or the service that you can provide to the organization, the kind of involvement that you can provide, the kind of contribution that you can provide. And third is leaving it at the will of the person getting interviewed. You leave it up to the organization to decide, or you leave it up to the person to consider your profile and provide. See, this is not a question which is only difficult, which is faced by the professionals. This is also a difficult question when we see people go for fundraising. How much fund is exactly required? How much to ask? Whether this amount is going to annoy this donor, or whether this is going to be too small for the donor. What do I ask? This same question is in the mind of the fundraiser, person who's doing the fundraising, or doing the crowdfunding for either a cause, either a service to the society or the organization. So let us understand this three aspect in terms of a professional. See, when you go for an interview, the first thing that you need to do is you need to analyze the organization that you're going for interviewing. You need to check out their financial status in terms of how they're doing in the either if it is NASDAQ listed, you need to find out how they are doing in the stock market. You need to find out what kind of new products they have launched in past 2 years and how success are those products. You need to also analyze into what are the kind of changes that happened in past 6 months or 1 year in the board in terms of internal management. Why? Because to get constructive information about what is the health of the organization, Organization might appear as very big. It might have a very, um, let's say, elaborative buildings, elaborative campuses, and everything, but its product might not be doing that good in the market. It might not be, maximizing the revenue at that or that level. So in those cases, if you ask for too much, analyzing just the building structure and the decorum and the internal and external decor, you might lose the chance of getting into the organization because you might appear to them as a very pricey candidate if you're asking for a high, fat salary. Whereas if you do this analysis of the organization and you find that they are doing great in the stock market, that their new product has hit the market and it's a great hit. Along with that, the board is very strong. There has not been much conflict within the stakeholders and the directors and the organization as such. It has not wind up into any kind of litigations from the environment control bodies. It has not gone into any kind of scams. It has not gone into any kind of legal issue with any other collaborators. So when you get a picture like this, it's pretty healthy. Okay, in that term, if you do an analysis of your experience and and you quote a price, I would say always, whichever organization you're going with, never quote a perfect or a fixed figure. Rather give a range. Like if you find that in, let's say, in terms of the cities in Kolkata, Bangalore, Pune, when you are in that particular city, you need to consider that kind of standard of living and the kind of expenditures that kind of happen, and you do an analysis. And when asked, do show that you have done some analysis, and you might answer it like this, that see, I absolutely understand why you're asking this salary expectation, and I would like to say that I did some search. See, there are websites like Glassdoor, okay, wherein you can do, even Naukri has come up. LinkedIn is a great platform to do an analysis of the salary insights for a particular job, particular designation with particular years of experience and in a particular city. When you come up with that kind of information, you can go up to the interviewer and say, well, you see, the other day I was doing a bit of my own research about the position of a social media management strategist, and I found that they draw anything in between 50,000 to 65,000, and along with the health benefits and other benefits like office transportation, subsidized meal, and so on, and medical benefits. And so, well, keeping into consideration the present market scenario, I would rather like to go for a range in between 60,000 to 75,000, give and take. That not only opens up a wider range to give room for discussion with you for the further discussion, but it also shows to the interviewers that you are aware of what is prevailing in that particular city, and that you are a very analytical person, because you have come to interview being prepared about what your position demands from the organization, what your organization would demand from your position, and how the relationship would be mutual in terms of your contribution towards the work and in terms of salary from the part of the organization. So when you give that picture, that shows you as a very analytical person, that shows you as somebody who's prepared, who knows what they are applying for and what is their net worth. Many a times that shows confidence, and the interviewers feels great in talking about, like, okay, see, we are talking for this particular position, we are talking something in between 50 to 60,000. I would like you to consider this. Then maybe after 6 months or after a year, we can do a review, and we can restructure your salary. How does that sound? Well, see, that leaves room for discussion. That is pretty healthy. Okay, I would suggest, guys, never say a figure. Okay, I want 50,000, or I want 40,000, or I want 30,000. Nothing like that. Rather give them a range, because you might be You might be asking something, but the many a times the organization might be ready to give more than that. And in terms like when you come to know about it later on, like, okay, the organization was ready to pay up to 40,000, but since I asked 30,000, I got 30,000. So as I always mention, that be careful about what you ask for, because that wish might come true. So it's also very true in this sense. Like if you're asking for too little and you come to know about it later on, you might regret that, and that might create a discontentment. Second is, when asked like how much you're expecting, or how to pay for the service that you have received, I would rather say that you do an assessment of what your contribution, if you are applying as a professional, what your contribution would be, what you would be doing, what kind of skill sets you would be using. Would you be because it is always not the money. Many a times the organization provides some very expensive trainings also. When you get a chance for that, don't get stuck up to that amount, right? Okay, like I want 60,000 only, or I want 70,000 only. Rather than that, if you find that if you are agreeing to 50,000, which, or anything between the range to 50 to 60,000, and then you ask more question to the interviewer as to, like, when I join in, what are the kind of trainings that I can look forward to, what are the kind of in-hand training that I can look forward to, what are the kind of products I'll be working. Ask many questions to the interviewer, because that's why they are there. It's not a one-sided thing. I mean, I go for an interview, and I have always seen candidates sitting meekly and answering them just what they're being asked. I mean, they seldom do have any questions for the interviewer. Now that's pretty negative. I mean, I personally, as an interviewer, like my interviewees to ask me a lot of questions. That shows that genuinely he or she is enthusiastic about joining the organization, that he or she is planning to contribute, and he or she is trying to analyze what kind of work professional, and what kind of contribution he is actually, or she is actually walking into. So that shows that the candidate is open towards learning, and is in a contributive mode. That is a very positive sign, which actually impacts interviewers in terms of when they are interviewing the candidate. They really feel the candidate is into the flow. I mean, right? They want to know more about it. They want to know what is in the training, what are the kind of benefits they can get. See, talking about the benefits is not wrong, but you need to talk about what kind of work is being expected out of you. Like who would be all reporting to you, you would be reporting to whom, what kind of training model the organization has, what kind of in-house training the organization provides, what kind of online certification the organization. Now when you see there is a lot of scope to learn, a lot of new certification can happen, a lot of new technology can be learned, well, I would rather say that no, it does not mean that you go for 10,000 if you're already planning for 40,000. I'm not saying that, but don't get stuck up to a kind of figure. Rather give learning also a great scope, because if you find that you can learn a lot, the main thing is, if you can learn all those things, you not only grow in the next phase of your profession, but you also get the chance to grow along with the organization, and becoming that indispensable resource which the organization really counts on in terms of productivity, in terms of maximization of resource and profit and every other thing. So if you get a chance to ask more question, ask the interviewer or the operation head, whosoever is, or the director, whosoever is interviewing you, and ask a lot. I mean, instead of just saying a figure, like you might leave it like I would like to know more about what would be my contribution, what is expected out of me, and to deliver all this, what kind of trainings I can look forward to. Not only that shows you as a very suitable candidate who's enthusiastic, who's open to learning, but it also shows that you are analytical and not impulsive. That is a great way you can impress the interviewer and land up in that successful job. Many a times it also happens that when we have received a service and we do not know how to pay for it, if a price is not being mentioned. That reminds me of a friend of mine. One friend of mine is a doctor, he's a dentist, and there's another friend of mine who stays abroad, like paid a visit last Durga Puja to Kolkata, and he had this toothache. So he visited this friend of common friend. Now we were all classmates. So when he went for the toothache, it had to be done. A root canal, had to be done. So when the root canal was done, the pain was taken care of and everything. And now my friend he asked the dentist, who is also our friend, like, so tell me how much do I need to pay for it? Now being friends, he was not feeling very comfortable. He says like, okay, that's on me. You know, just I'm happy that I could take care of the pain. And he never mentioned any fees or any price for that. So this friend of mine who was visiting from London was a bit uncomfortable, but then he actually called me up and he said like, hey, he didn't charge me, but he did a wonderful job, and I mean the pain is gone, everything is working fine. So I just don't know how to do, repay him back. So then I said like, I just suggested that what you can do is, I know because my wife got one of the root canal done for one of her teeth, and it costed me around like 30,000. So what you can do is, if you are so eager to pay Shubhash back, our friend the dentist, what you can do is, next time you pay a visit to Kolkata, you can bring a nice gift for him, and that might do the balancing act if you want to. And this suggestion appeared good. So just before lockdown, he actually came to Kolkata. He's stuck up now. He cannot go back to UK with the flights delayed and everything. But what happened was, he brought, this dentist friend of mine, since school days, he was fascinated by fountain pens. So this friend of mine, while coming from London, he brought Waterman fountain pen. Now Waterman fountain pens are pretty expensive. They are great instruments to write with. They are one of the most possessed possession that one passes on to the next generation. So Waterman fountain pen was a great. I personally liked it very much, and he presented it to this dentist friend of ours, and he was so happy. I mean, like, he says like, why have you brought this gift? And he says like, last time, don't ask me why I brought it for you, because last time also you didn't charge me for taking care of my pain. So we had a laugh and we had a mutual talk, and that was wonderful. So this is also one way to repay back when you are not sure as to how much to pay for a service. You can take this step also. And in terms of profession, I would rather say that ask more question, do an analysis as to what is your contribution going to be, how much the organization is going to invest in you in terms of training you, in terms of product knowledge, in terms of in-hand training. And accordingly, what you can do is, you can do analysis, like if you are going through all this great trainings, online certifications and so on, obviously the organization is going to incur a lot of cost, a lot of training cost. So you might not get stuck up onto, okay, I want that fixed salary only, rather than leave room for that since I'll be learning so much, I see a great scope of learning, and the more I learn, I'll be able to more contribute more. So I would like to keep the range open for you to decide. Any which way, I have found that in a city like this, this kind of salary is generally provided to this position. But since I'll be looking forward to a lot of training, I leave it up to your discretion to decide. Not only gives the interview a very positive feel, and you do not appear as a snatcher, as a opportunist. You don't appear like that. They also understand that you are trying to collaborate, you are trying to grow with them, and they find you as that great candidate who will be loyal with the organization for a long term, because the more the organization teaches you, the more training that you get, you will be growing, and you are looking forward to a growth internally along with the organization. That's a very positive sign for anybody, and you get the scope to grow. So don't say that fixed salary when you are asked to like what is your expected salary. And the third best option is living up to the discretion of the organization, because see, every organization, whenever they are interviewing a particular candidate, they already have a kind of bracket, a salary bracket which they have decided, and that too also is in a range. Now during interview, what happens is these interviewers try to grade you, like, okay, these things went right, so if it is a range in between 50 to 70,000, well, we might give 60,000 if the candidate scores 8 out of 10, or we might give them 70,000 if the candidate scores around 9 or 8. So accordingly they are grading, because you might be seeing while interviewing, a lot of interviewers do take notes, and what they do is they actually put their score or their markings or their findings about how the candidate is, whether it's a HR round, whether it's a technical round, whether it's a logical round, whatsoever, or operation round. Everybody gives a score, and according to that, in the scorecard, when the total is done and the average is made, if you are falling in a category of, let's say, 1 to 4, they might be having a bracket. From 4 to 6, they might be having a fixed bracket. From 6 to 8, they might be having another bracket, and 8 to 10, they might be having a bracket. So the thing is, it's not that if you're not asking, they're going to give you peanuts. It's not like that. Every organization, respectful organization, while they are taking your time and the interview, and they're spending their time in taking your interview, obviously they have a bracket. So many a times I have found that if you leave it up to the discretion of the employers or the interviewers, you are at a much better bargain, because that's what I did in my couple of interviews. I asked a lot of questions about the kind of team that I'll be working with, the kind of training that I'll be looking forward to, and the kind of clients that they are working with. So a lot of question, and when repeatedly asked, like, so what is your expected salary, I said, we can talk about that later on, but I'm more interested in knowing what kind of new products are coming from your side in the market, what kind of operational policies you have, what are the kind of health benefits you provide to the employees, and what are the kind of other activities which happens in the organization. Tell us more about employee relationship and reward and recognition. What kind of scoring you have to do a review of an employee's performance. See, the thing is, I have found, honestly speaking, I did that with HP also when I was interviewed. I did it with EREV Max, which I joined once I came back from Bangalore. I did it with ARC Document Solution, where I worked. The director was a great person, and he was keenly answering. He found that absolutely. He later on said that, I like that you ask a lot of questions. I literally felt that you are trying to know more about the organization so that you can make out how you can contribute, and that was very important for us, because we were not merely looking for a department manager. We are looking for somebody who can contribute as a team member and guide the team also. So that was a great learning thing, and for me it literally worked. When I till today, I don't prefer saying a particular figure when asked like what is your expected salary. Rather, I say that I leave it up to your discretion, because I'm sure that your organization has already have a bracket decided. So let us talk more about operation. Let us talk more about resource management. Let us talk about the scoring, how you do the KRA and KPI measurement. So the thing is, I literally wanted to know more about the organization, because I wanted to be sure as to make myself understand what am I walking into, because I didn't want to. Yes, it is true that the interview went great. It is true that there are questions, but you need to also understand what is your expected salaries. Also, does not mean the silver lining. It does not ensure guarantee that you have bagged the job. Many a times they just want to take a vague idea of what is your expectation. They just want to put it in the in the CV, and they want to keep it for the next term interviewing also. If they are not offering the job right away, they might consider your profile later on. So that's very important. So you might not like to say something so exorbitant that you are tagged as a very pricey candidate in comparison to your experience. When you have experience and when you have contributed a lot and you have you have learned a lot with your years of experience, and you say too little, it shows lack of confidence. It shows that you do not know, and you are just an opportunist, like whatever comes in, I'll take. That does not show a very respectable position. So leaving it up to the discretion of the organization many a times gives a better bargain. That reminds me, before I end, that reminds me, in Kolkata, once I visited a Punjabi dhaba for lunch along with my wife, and that particular day they had this great offer. I mean, I was literally shocked, and I didn't know how it worked. But then I saw that for 1 week, what they are doing is they had this huge. When I asked for the menu card, they gave us a menu, and all this price, per plate were all shaded. Okay, they had a kind of tape stuck on against the price, and you cannot see the price. And when I asked the waiter, like, how do I know which plate costs me what? And then they say, sir, like you have the food as much as you can eat and pay as much as you want to. I said, I mean, come on, that's crazy. I might be, I was joking, obviously. I might be taking, food worth $1,000, and I might hand you over 500. I might not be the right person to do the valuation of the food. Then they said, that's not a problem, sir, because that's what we are doing here. And I found it completely crazy. And we had a nice lunch, and the service was great. And honestly speaking, you wouldn't believe what happened was, I literally shelled out $1,000. Okay, and later on, after almost like another month, when I visited the same restaurant, I took the same menus, okay, which we had for lunch 1 month ago, and the bill came to 650. 750 rupees. I'm sorry, 750 rupees. So you see, when we were given the choice as to how much we want to pay, we are paying more. I literally paid 250 rupees more when I was happy and I was not given a price tag. So that shows that when you do not put a price tag, against your service or against your job that you are going to join, leaving it up to the discretion may land you up with a much better package. With that note today, guys, it's Monday, so work focusly and stay home, stay safe, and we meet again tomorrow at Morning Vibe Session with Career Counseling Online. And as I always mention, learn, contribute, and evolve. All the best, guys. Have a great week ahead.